Hey guys, Engineer Wannabe here. Today we're going to be finally doing a review of the Omega Speedmaster, or Seamaster, not Speedmaster, Seamaster, Planet Ocean. This is the 39.5mm version, but before we get to that, I'm going to do a wrist check. I'm wearing the Seiko SJE 085. This is the Alpinist recreation. I don't mention this a lot in the beginning of my videos, but I'd like to this time. I just want to say that you guys are of infinite value. Each and every one of you are of infinite value, and I appreciate you. And I thank you for watching this video. But yeah, let's get into the review. Okay guys, so here it is. Here is the Planet Ocean. You can tell that it is a smaller looking watch. Let's go ahead and get started with the dimensions here. My calipers measure 40.5mm. No matter which way I try to take this measurement. The reason I think they labeled this as a 39.5 is because this has a sort of asymmetric case. So kind of like the Speedmaster. You have this case that kind of engulfs this crown rather than having traditional crown guards. So a very interesting case shape. I think the effect is very nice. I like asymmetry when it's done right. And I think it's done right here. Moving on, the lug to lug here is going to be 45mm. The thickness is 14, slightly over 14, 14.2 is what I got. And the lug width is 19. That may be a bummer for a few. I actually like it. I have a lot of 19mm lug width watches, and so that works out for me. Continuing to go on the dimensions, one important dimension is the weight. The weight is 165 grams when it's been sized for my 6¼ inch wrist, 16cm circumference wrist. So as you can see, I've pretty much taken all the links off on this side. I've got one link left, and a couple of links here. One link actually. And the signature helium escape valve is present here at the 10 o'clock position. I like that this is the cylindrical helium escape valve. That's one thing I don't enjoy. I know a lot of people don't like the manual helium escape valve in general when it comes to Seamasters. I don't mind them as long as if they're cylindrical. I really don't like the conical one that they've come up with the Seamaster. It's not a deal breaker. I've owned the Seamaster Necton, but I do prefer the cylindrical helium escape valve. The dial here is a ceramic dial. It is high gloss polished ceramic. It's a beautiful dial. Very, very nice legibility because it's so clear, including the sapphire crystal with the double coating, or the coating on the underside and the top side of anti-reflective coating is excellent. You can see right through. In most cases you don't even see any crystal at all. The only issue is it does smudge easily because of that anti-reflective coating, so you will find yourself wiping the watch and wiping the crystal. And you'll also notice some scuffs. I haven't got any. I've been told that scuffs are inevitable when it comes to air coating, and I believe them. You do have a vulnerable material on top of a relatively invulnerable material, which is the sapphire crystal, so kind of defeats the purpose. The bezel here is a 120 click ceramic or a 120 click bezel with a ceramic insert. I really like this liquid metal filling on this ceramic. Yeah, let's go ahead and listen to this bezel action. So very precise bezel action. I really enjoy it. Far better than the scallop bezel of the Seamaster Professional 300. So I do prefer this bezel action, and it's not great. It's not class leading, but it is very good. So while we're still talking about this this case, let's talk a bit about this thickness. It is 14.2 according to my calipers, and it really doesn't feel that way. So you've got all these different finishes here. You've got this protruding case back which sinks into your wrist. You've got this beautiful beveling on the underside of this belt line. So so wearable. It's such a beautiful little detail there. And you have this brushed belt line here, and then you have these twisted lugs, this polished lyre lug. So all these things, and of course on top of that you have the bezel. All these things kind of add up to this feeling more like a 12 millimeter thick watch. Now, to compare and contrast, I have my Tudor Black Bay 58 here. This one is just a polished slab of metal. It is only 11 and a half, I think 11.8 millimeters thick, but it feels every bit of those 11.8 millimeters. So I would say this wears only slightly, well, on the wrist, this feels only slightly bigger than this one, even though on paper it's far thicker than this Black Bay 58. So, keep that in mind when you're thinking about this thickness. Moving on, let's talk about the bracelet. So you've got an all brushed bracelet, which is very nice. The links are all oval in shape, and I really enjoy that. It allows for some gap to be placed on your wrist from between the wrist and the bracelet. This allows for the bracelet to sit a little higher, and it doesn't, clam onto your wrist. For not picking on the Black Bay 58, I really like the Black Bay 58, but as you can see, this one follows the curvature of your wrist, and they're all kind of what would you call this shape? They're not oval. They're kind of bent, like almost a C shape. So not as exaggerated as the letter C, but so this one I think allows for way more air to flow through your wrist, and for it to be really comfortable to wear day to day. It's a beautiful, beautiful bracelet. The clasp is not is long, but not that long. So in the 38 millimeter model, you get this smaller clasp, which I'm really grateful that Omega did. They could have put the bigger clasp that's in the 42 and a half millimeter sorry, not Black Bay, 42 and a half millimeter Planet Ocean. But I'm really grateful that they used the smaller clasp. You don't get as much micro adjustment, so you do have on the fly micro adjustment. There are only 3 positions, which is, a shame. You can kind of see the divots there. It's a shame you don't get much micro adjustment, but it goes around a small wrist very well. So you won't have any issues with the clasps or the swing arm sticking out, causing an unsightly poke on your wrist. It's going to look good. Continuing on about the bracelet, their screw links. Omega's screw link system is a bit of a nightmare. You have two screws and a little pin in the middle that holds everything together. I think it's good in the sense that the likelihood of these backing out is very slim, because when this is vibrating in your day-to-day activities, the whole pin is not rotating inside the shaft. So you got 2 really tiny screw heads, and those are far less likely to back out and fall out, rather than if you had an entire screw that went through the whole link there. I would think there's a higher chance of that backing out. So you can see the clasp here, beautiful etching of the Omega logo, twin trigger deployant as well here. I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but let's get back to this dial. You have a 6, 9, and 12 Arabic numerals in here. You have a date, the 3 o'clock that takes the place of those Arabic numerals. A 3 would have been nice and no date. I know us watch enthusiasts prefer no date, or a lot of us do, and we complain about it, but I would have gone with that. I would have gone with a 3 numeral, but not a deal breaker whatsoever. We have these arrowhead hands. I do really enjoy these. I like that they're filled with lume rather than being skeletonized. The indices here are applied, and they're all high polished. So they're not incredibly thick or anything, but they're very nicely done. It definitely provides some visual interest. And the other interesting part of this is that you have orange tipped seconds hand here, and you have orange text giving us the depth rating, and Seamaster is in orange. I probably prefer the indices on the Seamaster Professional 300, but I do really enjoy these as well here, and these stick-like indices are very nice. Okay, so let's talk a bit about this movement. So this is the Omega Caliber 8800. It's visible in the back of this watch. It's a coaxial movement. So, and also MEDAS certified. So it's been through rigorous testing, and you're able to take a look at that testing and how the movement fared on Omega's website. It ticks at 25,200 vibrations per hour, which is 7 ticks per second, if I'm not mistaken. It has a 55-hour power reserve. I think I get around 60. It is anti-magnetic, and it's been tested to be accurate to 0 to +5. This one I think is at around +2. I don't keep track of accuracy on my watches too often. It used to be really important to me, but now that I have spring drive with Grand Seiko and 9F quartz, the mechanical accuracy, as long as if it's within spec or very reasonably within spec, or maybe slightly out of spec, I don't really mind. Great movement, and very beautifully finished. And it's nice that you can take a look at this movement when you have a moment. One thing I didn't mention is the lume on this watch. The lume is exquisite. It is very strong lume. It'll last you the night. Very satisfied with that. So let's go ahead and throw this on the wrist. I'm gonna take my Seiko SJE off here. That was my wrist check for today. I'll throw this one on. And there you go. So this is it on my 6 1/4 inch wrist. I really enjoy the way this wears. As you can tell, you can kind of feel the thickness, but it's not as daunting as you might think. When you see 14 and a half millimeters thick, chances are, if you're sensitive to thickness, you might be scared away. I'm going to throw this on just so that you can compare. This is the Tudor Black Bay 58, which is a comparable watch. I think the Omega Planet Ocean is the ultimate upgrade for a Black Bay 58, and we'll get into that in my closing thoughts. But this is the Black Bay 58 on my wrist. It's not that different. This is a whole 2.5 millimeters thinner, but it really doesn't feel that because, of course, you have those sheer sides, right? Nothing to break up the visual appearance of the watch. While this does every trick in the book to try and minimize that feeling of thickness. So kudos to Omega for making this thickness work. It's just an embarrassing spec, I think. But that said, it's 600 meters water resistant, which is not something a lot of watches can claim. So when it comes to cons with this watch, there's really not a lot that I can talk about, which is rare. I can always come up with something. One thing to note, I think I already mentioned the fact that, there's only 3 micro adjust positions. But one thing to note is that when it's in the outermost micro adjust position, there is a strange clicking sound that comes on the bracelet, which on the clasp, which doesn't inspire too much confidence. I'm gonna do that for you right now. So while you're wearing it, you can hear this loud and defined click. So every once in a while that'll happen. Of course, when it's in the other micro adjust positions, you won't be able to hear anything like that. So a really strange click that happens. So that's really the only somewhat annoying con that is present in this watch. Everything else, maybe the bracelet's a little difficult to take off compared to other bracelets, but other than that, really, this watch is really close to perfect. Maybe one other thing is it's really difficult to take pictures of this watch. Well, that's completely and entirely superficial. So, yeah, take that for what it's worth. Okay, guys, so that's it. That's my my brief review. It's not brief, but my review of the Omega Planet Ocean 39.5 millimeter version. I think this is my favorite watch, my favorite dive watch. And I think it's, for me and for those who have smaller wrists, I think this is the best dive watch that you can purchase. There may be others that I haven't experienced yet. I mean, I'm sure there are, but from the watches that I have experienced, I think this is the best watch that you can buy. Anyway, guys, I always like to say that you guys are precious and you guys are worth it. You are of infinite value. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Even if you don't like me, you know, even if yeah, even if people are mean to you, you are of infinite value. And I am grateful for you. I'm thankful that you watched this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you have any questions and I will be happy to help you out. But yeah, other than that, guys, take care, stay safe out there, and have a great day wherever you may be. Bye, guys.